welcome. Happy Money Monday, y'all. We're back again all of June talking about death and debt. Not my favorite subjects, but we got to talk about it because to survive it, we got to talk about this debt so that we can get out of debt. So, hey, Lorenzo in the house. Happy to see you. I hope you on your grind taking notes, sir. Because I will be ready to attend your live. So come on, get it together. Today is Debt and Death. I'm your wealth best friend, Jayla Eaton, and this is just your weekly check-in. What happens to your debt after you die? I was thinking about this and I was like, I'm all about generational wealth. And I just felt like if you're dying with more debt than assets, you're not truly on the path to create generational wealth. And that's the takeaway for today. I need you guys to focus on any debts that you have and make sure that you are paying them off before you leave here, which may mean you got to have an aggressive plan of getting out of debt. So I know that's hard for some because, like we talked about last week, you may be overwhelmed at the thought of being in debt. Go to last week's Money Monday, hear about them tips, see what you need to do, understand this is a safe space, ask your questions. I'm here to help. I am offering y'all access to a certified fiduciary advisor. Use it. So on that note, what happens when you're still paying debt and you leave? You leave this earth. You got a whole nother afterlife that you're dealing with. But in America, they still want that money. So, and don't forget the taxes, because it's either debt or taxes. All of those you need to be prepared for. So the short answer to what about your debt after you die, what happens to it, is it doesn't typically die when you do. It depends. It depends on the type of debt that you have. Is it secured or unsecured debt? What does that mean? Most of the time, secured debt has an asset attached to it, has something that the bank or the lender has taken as collateral. So you see that as cars, you see that in houses. It's something that they can take back to try and recoup some of their money. Unsecured, that's more like these degrees behind me. Like Sally Mae's not coming back for the degrees. Although she could, because I would hand them over when she's ready to come get them. Because this time around, I know I would get my law degree for free. I know I would be more financially aware and conscious. So I wouldn't take out any loans to get my law degree back. So Sally Mae, if you ever decide that you're going to take back degrees to pay off the debts, mine's first. Come get it. So that's like an unsecured debt. You also see that with credit cards because they let you buy whatever and they're not about to come take the pizza that you may have put on your credit card that you're paying 34% interest on. Whether your debt survives you depends on if there's a cosigner. There's normally traditional advice, do not co-sign for anybody. I mean, there are very few people in this world that I would co-sign, and one is probably my mama. That's it. Because I know if she took out debt, she has the resources to pay it back. She has been the most financially stable person that I know in my life, and so I would trust her not to put me in bankruptcy. Other than that, we're not co-signing for anyone. We will send you well wishes. We will try and help out when we can, but we are not signing that note. It also depends on if you have other assets when you pass away. So, and the state that you live in. So each state determines what happens to your debt when you pass away. And the probate courts have control over that in some capacity too. But Most important to know is that when you pass away and if you have debt, your creditors, not your family, your creditors are the first in line to be paid if you leave this world owing something. Anything in your name, they are first in line to, oh, wait, I had a debt. They owe me. Use that to pay me. That's why you see a lot of estate sales, because people are trying to get enough assets to pay off debts or to pay off, hopefully, in your case, the gifts that you left to other people. We'd rather it be gifts than for it to be going towards your debt. Other than that, your executor, if you died with a will, or your administrator, if you died without, is in charge and has to notify your creditors that you've passed away. They have to notify the banks, the credit agencies, everybody that you could possibly owe gets notice of your debt. They publish it. It's public knowledge that you're gone, and they give them time to file and say, hey, that person owed me money. I want it back now that they're gone. I don't care how they do it, by any means necessary. Give me my money. So you can read about probate on my blog if you want more information about it. I talk about it often because it is the one thing that I do want you guys to avoid. Because probate is not a fun place. I have a few people that their parent has passed away and they're dealing with probate court. And when I tell you it takes 6 months minimum, lately it's been taking a year, like just to get a court date. One of my friends who their parent passed away just got a court date, and their parent passed away over a year ago. So the estate has just been stagnant, and you can't do anything until you have the court's approval. So you have those letters saying you have authorization to manage this estate. And what happens during that time where that person had bills and house and mortgages that need to be paid? Either the family was paying it, or it's an easier way to lose your assets, to lose your property. So read about probate, learn all you need to know, and figure out how you can avoid it, because you can avoid it. There are ways. And then if you need more help, if you're in California, you can talk to me. If you're not in California, you can send me an email. I've got a wonderful list of Black estate planning attorneys all over the nation. And I've also got a few resources for you when you're interviewing estate planning attorneys, because look, we're trying to protect the wealth, not give it away. So back to this debt. So what about these co-signers? What happens if you have a co-signer and you pass away? Well, the co-signer's up. That's now their debt. So you've left your debt to somebody else because they've signed and said if something happens to you, that they're going to pay this debt. We don't want that. We don't want that. Because now your debt has just taken on a new host. You've got somebody else trapped. And they probably didn't expect to have to pay your debt, but they will, because they signed to be responsible. So don't co-sign. If you're married, the same rules could apply. So if your husband or wife has debt and they pass away, depending on your state, that could become your debt, even if it's theirs in their name alone. So we're paying off debt, remember? And with student loans, because I know a lot of my community has student loans, what happens when you pass away and you have student loans? It depends. If you borrowed from the government, meaning, and the easiest way to tell if you have government loans is if they're on deferment right now till September. Those are government loans. If they are private loans, private lenders weren't offering the 0 payments during COVID and everything. But if you have government loans and you pass away, they get canceled. We don't want you to have to die for Sally Mae to finally get off your back, though. But If you have private student loans, they will try and collect from your estate. So those debts don't die with you. They continue on. Same goes for mortgages. That mortgage kind of continues on after you. There either needs to be somebody who is financially capable of assuming the loan, meaning that they're basically getting a new loan for your house, or more often, what I see is the family can't afford to or doesn't have the credit to get a loan for your house. So they end up selling it to pay off the debt, and then they take whatever's left. In some cases, I've seen spouses take over the payments. If you're the sole owner and you pass and there's isn't enough money to pay off the mortgage, again, they sell it. And they also, don't forget about those other creditors who said, they owe me. Some of the proceeds that you get from the sale of the house or the sale of a bigger asset that there's a little profit of. It's not really profit, but it's more than what was owed, will be used to pay off other creditors in the estate. So if you willed a home to somebody, like you said in your will, that I'm giving this to my daughter, and your daughter's 16, your daughter is 21 and doesn't have a good credit or something like that, they have to be able to qualify for the mortgage to keep the home, or they end up selling it. A lot of times you'll hear attorneys say you want to die penniless. What they really mean by that is you want to pass away with nothing in your name. One of the ways that you do this is to have everything in trust, because that not only avoids probate, if done right, it leaves somebody in charge, a trustee, that is now distributing and continuing to pay the mortgage. So when you transfer your assets to trust, especially with a mortgage, depending on how you do it and depending on the lender and if they really understand trust, what you can do is, instead of the mortgage being in your name, and you'll take me for instance, when I bought my house, it was originally in my name, Jayla. And then when I transferred it to a trust, I changed my mortgage to show Jayla as trustee of the Rainbow Corn Trust. My daughter called her unicorn, and she loved unicorns, rainbow corns. So I just thought that was cute, and I stuck with it. But my mortgage says me as trustee. Trustees, they can die, they can stop being trustee, they can add co-trustees, but it's not their property. It's the trust property. So you can continue paying a mortgage and just change trustees, and you don't have to worry about, oh, well, she died, now we've got to go to probate so that we can get these debts out of that person's name and have the authority to transfer property. When your property is in trust, it's a whole nother entity. Think of it as a business, or think of it as creating a person who never dies, that is now controlling and owning the things that you've worked so hard to build. And they do what you tell it. So your creditors could be out of luck if your items are in trust, because that is not technically you. It's a totally different entity that now owns this house, that now owns this car, that owns the property in your house or your collection or anything that you value, your stock accounts, anything. They can also, the trust can be the beneficiary. So that's who gets the property. So there are ways, you just have to strategize, but just don't die in debt, please. We're all making a plan to get out of debt, to not have this follow us into the afterlife, or to not burden our family with this. So I'm going to run through the comments, see if there's any questions, concerns. I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful Monday. I cannot believe it's the second Monday of the month. My goodness. Hey, Jackie. Oh, my goodness. Now, Sean's in the house. We got everybody. Oh, we do have one question from Essays. It says, what if you own property that has equity and your family wants to sell? Will the bank wait for them to find a buyer? The bank doesn't care what you do. They just want their money. They do not care. The family can keep the property, assuming that they can qualify for the loan and keep it and get it into their name, and the bank continues to get their money, or the family can sell the property and pay off the mortgage. Either way, the bank's like, we gonna win. We don't care. It's better for the bank to keep people on the hook. So I'm sure they would prefer to have credit-worthy people because they get interest and they would make more money than getting that one lump sum. But very good question. I appreciate that one. Someone said, can you provide a tip or two on a soon-to-be fresh graduate? Stay out of debt. That's it. And I know that's hard. I was hanging out this weekend with a 23-year-old, and he was fresh from the New York jewelry store, said he paid $28,000 for a pinky ring, had his wonderful bag on. He had a Hellcat $90,000 car outside. I'm not the type that's going to judge. I feel like you have to learn these lessons yourself. And there is a higher probability that you will slip up or that something unexpected will happen to you. And it's just better if you're not in debt when that happens. Because we all take on these 30-year mortgages and you're like, right now I can afford this mortgage. It's great. It's good. And then you may lose a job, or somebody around you loses their job and needs help. Spouse, your pet can get sick and have a astronomical vet bill. Child gets sick, healthcare issues. Anything can happen in that 30-year time frame that just messes up your plans. And from there on, it's a downward spiral trying to get out of debt because you just never expected COVID to hit and shut down everything and stop your financial progress. So the best thing that we can do, stay out of debt. When you don't owe anybody, it makes it very easy to live the life that you kind of imagine. It's hard at first. It's a wealth building stage for a reason. You are not alone. It requires some sacrifices. I don't know if we've got to go without all of our coffee and all of that, but it's more money management. It's knowing that the steps that you are taking now are going to improve your life later. It's hard. It really is. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that it is. But eventually, after you learn more about financial literacy and financial education, you start to like this stuff. Like, I remember when my husband was like, we need allowances. I was like, okay, I don't think we do, but that's fine. We set up accounts. He got his allowance. He was spending. He was enjoying. He was living it up. I got to the point where I didn't want anything, so I just started investing mine. And he was like, that is not what this allowance was supposed to be for. You're supposed to be spending it. We're already investing. I'm just like, this is what's exciting to me, knowing that I'm putting my money into something and it's going to grow. Whenever it decides to grow, it's going to grow. So hopefully that helps, Lana from Allstate. And thanks for listening in. I'm excited, Miss Katie from the Love Sip. Please do email me. I do have a few attorneys in Texas, and I will get you the link to that. I think we have one more question. I love y'all. Y'all are engaged for this topic. I thought this was going to be dry and drab. Death and debt. If you name someone as executor on your will, will that avoid them having to go to probate? No. Anytime you have a will, which you have to have, you want to have a will no matter what, you're going to probate. Because the probate court has to then certify that this was that person's will. They have to make sure that they have an accounting of all of your assets and that your estate is being managed and handled in accordance with the state's probate codes. So there are laws. The only thing that you're doing when you have a will is making sure that the default rules don't apply. And the default rules you don't want to apply because they assume that you love everyone. They assume that your family is good with money and that there won't be any fights if you told your uncle that he was getting $10,000 and the default rules say that everything's going to either your child or your siblings or your family. Like, you don't want the default rules to apply. You want your wishes to apply. Other than that, I don't see any more questions. Like I said, read up on probate. Ask somebody who has experienced probate. I will tell you, I have never heard anybody say this was a wonderful, magical experience. For the most part, my experience is that I have people that have been in probate court for years with no end in sight. And attorneys are just racking it up. The courts are racking it up and the IRS is racking it up. So do your estate plans. Find an estate planning attorney that wants to just do your documents and save you from that headache. But you can do this. You got this. If you have any more questions, it's Money Monday, so I'm around. I'm on Instagram. I appreciate y'all for coming. Good luck. I will be back next week for Money Monday at 12:15. Have a good one.